Good morning and welcome back to our channel, Fulfill the Game of Life. Well look, our last video got such a strong response on cars and the difference in cars between the United States and Portugal. So I wanted to continue a few things to give you a little bit more clear definition, and instead of just saying it with words, I was going to show you some really cool ways to view some of the things that we're talking about before. So before we get started, I want to ask you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. And so you'll be aware of any new content that we send out as soon as we send it out. So let's get started. One of the first things that we're going to go through is the electric car infrastructure, and because I'm somewhat the old cat that rebuilds the engines type of person, I really wasn't that aware. I did see it, but I made only small notice of the infrastructure for electric cars, and I had a comment on the last video that was like, I just missed that. So let me spend a couple of minutes giving you a little bit of an overview. Number one, we do see Teslas around. There aren't a lot of them. Our first car rental was a hybrid, and if you look close enough around, you do see plenty of hybrid automobiles. So that's definitely on its way and becoming really popular, it appears, here in Portugal. But the one I thought was pretty darn humorous, honestly. I got to give myself a little bit of leeway on this, but this should make you laugh, I believe. We went on our first road trip. The very next video is going to be about that road trip. One of the things that I saw, and again, I got to give myself a little leeway. Forgive me for the fact that, you know, I'm a little bit older. My eyesight isn't dead perfectly clear. And I drive by these exit signs, and this is what one looks like. And if you notice that little icon down on the bottom left corner, looks a little bit like a Volkswagen Bug, and sticking out of the back of it looks like something. So I drive by and I take a glance at it, because you're trying to absorb all of this, all these new signs, and you're just in absorption mode, trying to learn everything. And you look up there and you see that, and my first thought was, huh, I guess I can only get off here if I have a dual exhaust sticking out of the back of the car. Okay, I don't know if I thought that really, but it's funny, right? The second piece to it, though, was, in all seriousness, you start seeing those signs frequently enough and you start thinking, maybe that's an emission sign. And finally I saw one clear enough that it was pretty clear what it was. They're plug-in stations. The electrical infrastructure for electric cars is it's more developed here than it is in the United States, best I can tell. I can't remember in the United States driving by and seeing signs in rural Georgia for plugging in your car. And I'm only by memory alone, once every 1 or 2 exits you did see the sign that said, you know, there's a charging station here. So if you're into electric cars, this place is lights ahead of where we were in the United States. And some of that's, again, back to the fuel prices we covered in the last video. When you pay this much for fuel, you're looking for alternatives. So I think that closes out the overview for how the electrical infrastructure and electric cars are here in Portugal from a car guy's perspective. Second thing is, I wanted to give you a first-hand view. So I went through and I told you the brands that I do see and the brands that I don't see. I did spend quite a bit more time walking down, and I would just want to put some of these videos in front of you. I'm going to put them in kind of fast mode so you're not just bored with me walking down the street, but you can see the cars for yourself. We stopped at some pretty good places to just set the camera up and watch the cars drive by so you can see what's going on. All of this is really downtown Lisbon. So this is, again, capital city, downtown Lisbon, but these are the kind of cars you see. What is that I just caught on film? There's my co-producer. She looking for cars? In the department store?
Really? Really?
So here we decided to sit the camera down right in the middle of the tourist area. This is downtown Lisbon. You can see the cars coming by, BMW, Mercedes. You can look up to the right here. The camera just never does justice to the kind of the slope of the hill here in the behind. Again, you can see the cars that are coming by in the tourist area. And here you have us walking down the main strip in Portugal. And you get a really good glimpse of the cars. You see a couple of taxis come by here, and that's what you would see if you were in Portugal. Hey, so just to point out, maybe you like my shirt. I've worn it out, almost worn it completely out, but I love the motto on it. It matches my 635 CSI, my 80s cars that you saw in the previous video in the beginning of this. But anyway, on the topic of being a BMW guy, so why BMWs? It's a long story, and it can just summarize it by this. Back in the 80s, having cars that were nimble and quick, but you were still able to actually fit a family in with kids. It was just simply BMW and no one else. A lot of competitors have caught up. People make great cars across all brands these days. But I attached then. But you can kind of get from that what pulled me in back then that still holds me today. BMWs are historically rear wheel drive. Say that fast 9 times. They're almost perfectly balanced cars, 50-50 weight distribution, and they're just agile. They're agile cars. And again, there's a lot of competitors that do it exceptionally well these days as well. But when I said on the last video that the roads here are curvy, and we don't really have much of that in the United States. Well, you know, I can see people in the United States say, well, I know these curvy roads, and there is no doubt in the United States there are some curvy roads. I lived in South Carolina for about, I think, 6 or 7 years, which is right at the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Appalachian Mountains, and it's a beautiful curvy road section of the United States. Probably the most known curvy road in the United States is called the Tail of the Dragon. It's 11 miles long. There are 318 curves, and I was able to drive that road with my M3. Highly populated, though, by the way. There were so many cars on it. It was highly policed as well, but it's right between Tennessee and North Carolina. So it's not really true to say there are no curvy roads. Of course there are curvy roads. There's a lot of land in America, but if you look up the best curvy roads in America, the one thing you'll notice is they're 800 miles apart from each other. And I'm generalizing, of course, but I'm not generalizing when I show you this. So this was my first attempt at Google Earth Studio, because I kept going through, how do you really show someone in a really clear graphic how curvy roads are and what the roads look like in a particular country? And so it took me 3 or 4 hours to get this animation to look decent. It's not great. Let's get this thing started. As you can see, we start off here in the city, and the city is, you can see the roads, but what I'm hoping you can notice is not only the number of roads, but how narrow the roads are. Yes, indeed, there are straight lines here in the city. Look at the way the highways are structured, and what you see at the beginning of the video here is the major highways. And the curviness of the major highways is substantial, but zooming in one level, look at the next set of roads that they come to display on Google Maps, and look at these things. Look how curvy these things are. And we're going to keep just kind of panning in, and what this animation does is it shows you where we're at, and then it transitions to where we're going in our next trip. You know, I don't know what else to say. If you watch this video and you say to yourself, my goodness, practically every mile of this country is covered by curvy roads. And curvy roads are fun in my mind because of this. To have an exciting drive, you simply don't have to get so fast that you're threatening your life and you're threatening others. If the road is curvy enough, you're at 25, you're at 35. The Tail of the Dragon back in the United States, if you were going 25 to 30, the road was curvy enough where it would cause adrenaline in you. The same thing that I'm sure we're going to experience here. You could just look at these and say, and again, there's a positive. You never have to get up to 90 miles an hour to go around the curve to feel sufficient G-forces to actually cause a life-threatening situation for you and others. So I'm really excited about it. I actually love the fact that it's the smaller, curvier roads, and you could probably see it on my face. I cannot wait to purchase the car that we're going to have and get this thing out on the road. You know, I wanted to add one more piece into this. I think this is pretty fascinating. I'm not sure if people really visualize the size of the country versus the size of the United States. So I took a moment to compare. In one slide, I was very particular to maintain the same scale of accuracy. So you can see here on this graphic the size of Portugal and the size of Georgia, just the entire state of Georgia in the United States. And what you're seeing is this many roads condensed into such a small area. The state of Georgia is a total of about 60,000 square miles, and the entire country of Portugal is about 36,000 square miles. So it's almost, Portugal is about 60% of the landmass as the entire state of Georgia. When I say, hey, there's not that many curvy roads, you get a mental picture of what I'm trying to say, and you get it really clear. The number of curvy roads in the small amount of area that you have in Portugal is fantastic for a car guy, especially a car guy that actually enjoys turning left and right and not just going in a straight line. So this is, I thought, was a pretty expanding graphic. Hopefully it had a good impact on you. Well, that's it for this video. I hope that you found this informative and fun, honestly, and a little bit entertaining. But the excitement in my voice really comes from, we're probably about 2 weeks away from completing a car purchase. We will make a video on the challenges of purchasing a car here when you're a new transplant in. But we're excited to not just talk about buying the car and owning the car, but actually driving it. And we'll get you some good footage of what the roads look like firsthand. And if you can hang on, we'll be there pretty soon. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and remember to hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in a few days.